I'm remembering the time that you said, "We got something big." I don't know what we talked about, but from today we have something very sad.
It's sad for you.
Is it? Yes, it's a depressing thought, frustrating at best, depressing at worst, and it's this. We're talking about a friend, and yesterday, who's 18, he's butting heads with his father. He's not liking university, and he's working for us also. And he made an announcement yesterday that by the end of the year he will get away. He will be out of the country. He will be self-sufficient. And one can describe it as a beautiful, strong warrior story where a young man feels that he's not enjoying university, feels that he's not enjoying being at home, realizes there's something else, has brothers in us that are in his corner, and says, "I'm making the leap." And when I describe the story like that, and I did it in my newsletter, it seems I'm stressing the decisive power of this young man making a decision. And then I'm thinking about it, and I look at his video and I look at his things, and I could equally tell a story where his decisive power is a lot less, where yes, he feels he doesn't enjoy university and he doesn't enjoy his family life where he's at in California, but it is only because his father has decided that he will not pay for university anymore, and it is only because he's butting heads with his father and that he knows he's going to kick me out any day now, that he's kind of forced to look for a different solution. And if that would not happen, if his father would not make those decisions for him, he'd probably continue going to university, and he'd probably continue being with his family, despite the fact that he knows deep down he doesn't like it. He doesn't like university, he doesn't like family home, and he knows there's an alternative, and he has brothers on his side.
I don't see it that way at all.
Yeah. Well, yes, but you could tell the story that way. And I look back at my own story and I could say the same thing, you know?
Well, let me say what I see happening with this young guy. First of all, he's dependent on these external authorities since birth.
Yes.
They're the ones who are really responsible for his life.
Yes.
They tell him what he has to do. He has to go to school. This is the right thing to do. Like, they're the voice of authority in his head. And he experiences his own power mostly in reaction to them, you know? So he might say what he wants to do, but then they tell him he can't do it. And then maybe he reacts to them, you know? And so in his head, like the challenge is to become his own authority, to assume that voice. Already in his head, he's doing battle with what his parents are going to say, and that they're going to say no, and they're going to fight him, and he's already preparing for that. So as he comes to realize his desire and speak his desire, he's already fending. You know, he's got the shields up. It's like, no, you know, he's already coming with the judgments to them. He's already expecting. He's already provoking the fight, you know, that he's sure is coming, and which makes the fight come almost more like the self-fulfilling prophecy. And then he can fight back. Then he has something to fight back against, and he can declare his whatever. So partly I see it as it's in the claiming of his authority that he's even doing battle with them inside of his head before they even impose him, you know. And it is for him, it's very real. The second thing I would say is that his desire has been suppressed. His real authentic desire has been suppressed for so long because it's dangerous. I mean, if he would really let himself feel what he really wants to do, I remember talking to him, and he starts really feeling like, wow, yeah, what if I did this? And, oh man, I can't do that. You know, I couldn't say that. I couldn't do that, and it's dangerous, to really feel and speak it. And I think a lot of times we mislead ourselves even about what we really want. We hide it, and I know this. Like, I look to my past, and for example, in relation with a woman or something like this, I might not want to tell her the full truth of what I really desire because of the negative consequences that could happen or whatever. And I might not really, really want to admit to myself what I really, really want, because that could have me go off to Africa and leave my whole life behind. I mean, I was 39 when I made the decision, only after really years of awakening to my desire that I realized, you know what I really want to do? I really want to go travel the world. I want to go be free and all of this. And I remember back, and I did have a big conflict then also, and in part, that's why I was going. And this is another part of it, that as I really started to speak my desire, people did oppose me, and I did have to contend with them.
In either way you tell the story, the way I do first, or the second part of that story, the way I see it, or the way I describe it, and the way you describe it, that seems at least a little less courageous than saying, I'm breaking free of this and I'm going. It seems like it's random at best, and it's just a consequence of all of the context.
I don't see it that way at all. I mean, you mentioned his story that he posted on Instagram about his, like why he's going. His father's not paying for school, whatever. That's the story he put on Instagram. But the reason his father's not paying for school is because he started standing up for himself to his father. And he started saying no, what he wasn't willing to do. And he was starting to say yes to himself and what he wanted. And it's because of those courageous stands that his father said, I'm not paying for school, and that he didn't cower and say, okay, Dad, I'll do whatever you want. So it's because of those other stands that he made that his dad said he wasn't going to pay for school. So, I mean, he's got a lot of fear about it, I definitely do see it as a courageous stand.
I'll tell my story, because people always say, wow, people think it's courageous.
And maybe you're mapping it apart on yours.
Well, it's just a way of looking at things, and I see that in many things. I see in the way media is telling, or people are telling, that they like to stress the decisive part of something, meaning someone decided this and that's where we go. It's like conspiracy theories, it's all mapped out. But I when I look at how things happen, it's way more like Taylor of Panama things, which is, if you've seen the movie, is really the context that makes him decide something and then goes a different direction, and it becomes a big thing. But it's not this plan, and there's not so much decisive power and going through it. It's way more like an opportunistic, seeing the opportunity, going with it, and then moving in a different direction. And I could tell my story that way too, because people think, wow, it's courageous to give up your academic career to go and travel the world and talk about women, basically, and to the outside it may look like that, but to me it never felt really courageous. It felt like it's normal. I get this, like, I felt an unease with what I was doing, and nothing is like, I didn't feel fully alive. I get an opportunity to go travel and I say yes to it. Okay, that much is true, But to me, the opportunity was so big and so obvious that it's impossible that I would say no.
Yes.
And so to me, there is not much courage in that complete change of say career. And
I see it completely differently with his situation though, because this wasn't even a possibility when we met him, And his whole thing, he's faced down a lot of fear over the past several months. He's his parents want him to, finish university, get a good paying career. His mother's hiding his passport from him. You know, who knows if they'll write him off of the family. He doesn't have a way of making money. He's making very, very little from what we're paying him right now. He doesn't have enough to survive. You know, I think you had a way of, at least at the time, you were earning money, you're on your own, you know.
No. No. That's the thing. I went from monthly paycheck to nothing.
Yes.
But okay.
But he doesn't have his monthly paycheck. He's not even on his own.
Right.
He's still completely dependent on parents, you know. Has never had a job that could sustain him,
right.
You know, on his own. And he's the oldest child. He doesn't have an older sibling who's gone out and made it, you know. And he's risking possibly his parents will, you know, I think you kind of had maybe more support from your parents, or more like they were accepting of whatever you wanted to do. I think he feels much more like
right.
He might get fucking cut off, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's you know, for me facing down my mother and the authorities of my world, it took a lot of courage for me. I know that. But here's another thing. I remember telling my story, even into my, you know, maybe my early 30s. I would tell the story like this, that my mom kicked me out, you know, and because it made me look, I think, more like a tough guy, a troublemaker or whatever. But the truth of the story is I was already going, you know. I was already going, and I was causing so many problems with her because I was just going to do everything my way. And when she said, don't come back, I was more like, okay, I won't, you know, but I was already, I guess I was still a troublemaker, you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is I told it more like she did it to me, you know, which actually concealed the truth of it the opposite direction.
Wow.
It wasn't like my stand to go as much as it was like she made me do it.
I hear different stories, you know. I just hear different stories. I don't hear, oh, this one is more true than the other. It is now, because that's the one you're telling, but not because there's more truth to it. In my, you know, the way I look at things. You could be telling that first story forever, or you could tell the second story. What I'm shocked at is that, and I say this for anything, when we know something, like we put out an invitation to guys, you know, we put out an invitation, and I hear men say, yeah, they don't like their job, they don't like the relationships they're in, they don't like their life, they feel it's like, we offer them an alternative, you know, do this and this and this. They know it's the right path, like they know, like yes, and only a small percentage of those men are really going to make a leap, or knowing fully that this is not satisfying. They're not going to make the leap. And that to me is shocking all the time. Like, why is it so hard to break free of something you know is not fulfilling you?
Yeah. To me, again, that's not, it's obvious to me, anyway, from where I look at it. And that's that knowing is not enough.
Yes.
And you can think about like knowing consciously, this is your prefrontal cortex, right? But are they awake to it? Meaning, like, are they feeling it in their animal neurology, their body, their id, you could say. The super ego maybe says, okay, yes, I know this is best. But it's not all of them. It's not their whole being, yes. It's just like a part of them which doesn't even feel real. To know something, like, okay, yeah, I can know this is the right thing to do, but I feel much more strongly about doing something else. And so, like, the knowing is, like, inconsequential compared to how I really feel. And so the question is, how can we, if we're talking about presenting an opportunity to someone, it's not just about presenting it logically or so that they know it or understand it or agree with it. It's so that they fucking feel it,
yes.
or what I would say, awake to it.
Yes.
And if they're not doing it, it's because it's primarily first look to, are they even awake to it?
Yes. But that,
or how awake
it's still like, I think that's a great explanation, you know? And it's still like, that still, that this is a fact, is shocking to me. Like, I know going to the gym, you know, is great for me. Like, I know all the reasons why it's great for me. I also have the experience that every time I went, it feels great. Every time, you know? And so my body knows it too. And then still, at any given moment, when I'm thinking about the gym, I have to, in a way, convince myself or have a system in place. There's a resistance there of not wanting to go. And there is no reason. Like, where does that come from? Where does that resistance come from when all my stories, all my experiences, all my knowledge is a full-on yes, go to the gym. I still I feel I have to overcome something.
Yeah.
That to me is well, I have my own explanations for it.
To me, it's an of course, because in that moment you are feeling like being where you are. You are already doing what you already want to do. You already have the neurology for being right there. It's like an object in motion tends to stay in motion. Or
exactly, that's my explanation. Yeah.
But it's like your whole awareness is already there and going there. So just that you have this knowledge that something else is good for you or whatever, that's like you have all of this and then you have this one piece of knowledge over here. Yes. It doesn't mean it's connected or it's real for you in that moment. It'll become real for you once you get to the gym and you start experiencing it. Then you'll be in this world where, this is great. But when you're just sitting there, being able to access a filing cabinet that says, oh yeah, this is good for me. Well, yeah, but I'm like, this is what feels good right now. So.
Yeah, Newton's first law, an element that's, how do you say it? An element that's not
in motion tends to stay in motion.
The first one is different. The element that's
at rest.
At rest tries to stay in rest. That's the way I only can make sense of it, you know. But I guess what I'm feeling is a frustration over the frustration of someone who wants to really transform and change and is bored of being me and here and right now, and see that reluctance in a way, you know, of the things that I know that are good, that are great, and they're like, I have to like fight with the here and now of like breaking free of that, you know.
You know, if we go back to the inner conflict, right? Do one thing or do the thing I said I would do versus do the thing I feel like doing. You have ready-made rationalizations, beliefs, stories that you've told yourself all your life that make it comfortable to not even really face that inner conflict, but just keep going this way, like not being a morning person. This is the well-worn path that you've walked. Get up, no, keep doing this. You've worn down that path in your mind, in your beliefs, in your neurology, in your vision, in your whatever. Like, of course, you just keep going that way. So all of a sudden, go this way, when all of your neurology says go this way, of course, it's like you're going to beat a new path through the jungle. You're going to have to whack it. You're going to have to wear down that path and make rationalizations for going the other way for a good period of time before it's like, this becomes like the more well-worn path. So, so to transform, that's a major thing. Now, to use that metaphor, if you can take yourself from this path in the jungle that you walk every day, you've beaten it down, and the rest of the jungle is unknown, so it's scary. It's you don't see how to get there because it's all blocked. You got to contend with stuff you don't know. If you could transport yourself to a place in the jungle that you don't know anything and there is no path. Now you have to make one. If you could just transport yourself. But if you stay here in the same environment, the same surroundings, the same group of friends, you're just on that path. And man, that's hard to get yourself every day to get off the path. That's why I like the leap. If you just leap to where you want to be, or some other environment where it's...
Just imagine you're in the jungle and try to leap. Damn.
It's like a grasshopper, you know? Yes. They just fling themselves and do backflips and then end up in some other place. You know, I had this thing that I would do a lot for a period of years, especially when I was starting to leave the States more and more and more. And that's whenever I was in a body of water or the ocean, get on a boat, I would get up on the back of the boat and backflip into the ocean. And for me, it was very much a metaphor, just like flinging myself in. Like, I can't even see where I'm going, the backflip into the ocean, into the unknown. And I did this when we were out with a woman who takes people to see whales off the coast of Panama. But it was before whale season, so there was no other boats out there doing this. And I saw a whale out on the horizon. I said, whale! No one else saw it, And so we headed out that direction. And everyone's like, he didn't really see it. This is a great metaphor, by the way, for like your vision, You're saying, I saw it, I felt, I want to go, And no one else sees it. Like, yeah, it's not really out there, man. Come on, what are we doing? And I said, I think it's right about here, like the 5 minutes out on the boat. I think it's right around here. And the old woman who does these things, she actually jumped in first. She jumped into the water. She went underwater. And she came up. She's like, I hear it. It's nearby, And I was like, oh, whale. It's like monster of the ocean, of the jumping into the unknown. And there's a great fucking monster that could swallow you whole. It could just be it could come up for its feed from the bottom of the ocean, be like, and now you're in the belly of the whale. And I stood up on the on the edge of the boat backwards, and I backflipped into the ocean where there's this, who knows where the fucking monster is, and it was great. And I remember I had a friend there who was this really warrior-like guy. He studied Krav Maga, this really aggressive Israeli martial arts form. He was super aggressive in business and entrepreneurship. He was like, and he would not get in the ocean. He would not get in the ocean. And we swam out a little ways because the whale surfaced, right? So we swam in that direction. And it started coming towards us, like it's going under the water, then it would come up and it's getting closer. It's like, fuck, I swam a little bit closer to the boat, and it ends up going like right underneath us, under the boat, and then out the other side. It was this magical fucking experience being like in the water. You can hear it's like it's singing, and yeah, I don't know how the backflipping, like to me, it's something that I did a few times early on. Like I've told this story about like how I kind of flipped from where I was on the East Coast, my mom's house, to, okay, I'm going to go live with my uncle, and it's complete unknown. And then the first day of school, the whole cheerleading squad is after me. Everyone welcomes me. It wasn't like this cold environment back east. And it was like all of a sudden I've got friends, I'm cool, I've got girls, I'm like, I went from being a nobody and a loner to and I was like, what? It's that, because I think I had some really positive first experiences with that, I realized that as a strategy, like I would keep wanting to do it, yeah. And how powerful it could be to, transform your life.
Just something different.
Completely fling yourself into a new reality. But what was important in your story was Zan coming. He's lived there and he's telling you about that reality, right? That he's living. You can get a sense of it. Oh man! And he's invited me. Did he invite you? I don't know.
Yeah, working together. Yeah, and then I wasn't even imagining traveling yet.
Yeah.
He thought, I think you should be here when we do these events.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm there,
Yes.
It's just...
I think if we're thinking about guys who you can tell them the opportunity, they can think, yeah, that would be a better life or whatever. How well worn are they in the path that they're already in, and how many things that they're attached to are already holding them in place. They got a dog, they got a girlfriend, they got a secure job, they whatever.
Right.
And the dream is so many unknowns. Who actually, yeah. That's why I like to think of giving people a taste first. Give them the real fucking taste. Like when I took the month off to Africa, you know. And then you come back and then you have had a real experience of it. It's not just a vague knowing or a dream. It's a saudade. You come back with saudade, not a fantasy.
Yeah, maybe a way different of saying this is like, why say the jump that I made, why did it seem so easy and obvious to me at that point? Like there was no courage needed, I would say. And at the same time, I see so many men stuck, you know, and I see the opportunities they have, and I see the opportunities I give.
You see the opportunity.
Yes, and they don't. Yes, so just.
But imagine there are opportunities that come into their life that seem easy and natural that they do say yes to.
Yes.
Because there were other things that you didn't do. You didn't take off to explore Africa. You didn't do other things that you knew you could do. You didn't do those things, but you went with Zan. So the things that you might be showing them might not actually occur like the way that Zan occurred to you. You know?
Well, yeah, obviously. That's my question. You know, what is it in that moment that made the choice for me so obvious? And at the same time, I experience the frustration when I look at men tolerating their plight, not being happy, and not doing anything about it, and not taking the opportunities that come. Like to me, it's puzzling, and I'm not asking you for you to answer it for me. Like, what is in there? To me, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's why I think so many would describe like my journey as courageous, when I don't think it's very courageous. Because they do not see the opportunity in that, or they cannot imagine for that to be something so obvious.
Mm-hmm. Well, you remember when we met and I talked to you about business?
Yes.
It wasn't like you just, you know, you could see perhaps, oh, I'd like to have a lot more money. Maybe it'd be great to have that, but if I don't have to, as long as I don't have to do it,
yes,
work a lot more hours, do marketing, do selling, do all of this. Like it wasn't until it was a while of like hanging out together, living together, and a bunch of other things that then awakened something in you. You know, experiencing Dean Jackson. You know, you saw a pathway that you didn't see before. Right?
Yes.
You didn't see that. Like I presented the opportunity to you, but it was until you experienced Dean Jackson that something more really opened up for you, I think.
Yes.
So with each of those guys, what is their Dean Jackson? Maybe you haven't presented them their Dean Jackson opportunity. And even in that, you know, I remember you were attracted to it, but you were still really considering whether you're going to do it or not and put down that money for it. But you know what? I think the fact that you did put down a significant amount of money for that was also a good thing.
Yes.
Like if you'd have just put a little in, would you have really made sure to get the value out of it and then really experienced how good it was, you know, if you hadn't invested in it?
I'm very interested in that process, like like what is happening there when we choose a different path, you know, and how much is there a decision, is courage made there, is it context, is it the invitation, is it all of that, you know, and both in like understanding myself, but also like in understanding where guys are at, and how can we put an invitation in such a way that saying yes to it is unavoidable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and there's always going to be certain personalities that are just, they're not going to respond to the invitation that you're making, right?
Yeah.
Or to who you are.
If I look at society, you know, if I look at the guys that we're working with, and I am still shocked looking at the fact that so many are unhappy where they're at with their job, with their relationships, with their life. They're unhappy where they're at. And few make a radical change, jump on an opportunity that's there, is go with 180 degrees, do a backflip. So few of them, you know, and it's mind-boggling to me, because if I look at my history, you know, I felt unease, and so I was looking for opportunity, and I would jump on it when, you know, and I get so tired of being me at a certain point. Is fuck, do a backflip, end up somewhere different, you know, and that to me is so puzzling, and it's probably testament to the strength of this socially conditioned rhetoric of the society, you know, that holds people where they're at, you know, holds them just comfortable enough that they're afraid to jump, you know.
Yeah.
And
it's one of the reasons I keep coming back to, like, reaching guys 14 to 21, you know, before they've been so programmed to compromise, so programmed to shut down their desire, programmed to shut down their anger, programmed to not have honor and not choose from honor.
We got to get them young, or we got to abduct them and put them in a different life for like a month.
Another time when guys are really ready to act is when they're at the end of the rope.
Yes.
Like, to not act would be much more painful than to act.
Yes.
You know, like you've avoided, and now everything is gone. Your whole life is falling apart.
Right.
Now you're ready to make a change. You know, it's people have carved out a comfortable existence, and to say go into the unknown, into the wilderness where I've never been before, and like I could lose all this comfort, I could lose everything I have and myself, I could lose my identity, I could lose my beliefs, my future I've been working for. Everyone could laugh at me, I could die, I could lose my friends, might judge me. I mean, there's so much at stake.
Yes.
To just go off into the wilderness, you know?
I guess what I sense is what I see now clearly is I have some judgments and contempt towards guys playing it safe, and it comes probably also because I feel most of my life I was, or still, you know, playing it too safe, or that part of me that feels I'm playing it too safe, you know, that fuck, what did it take until I was 35 to start traveling? You know, why, you know, why was it just, so I guess that's there, you know. So
That's a great insight.
Come to terms with that.
That's a great insight. You could do a self-honor window.
Yeah.
It would be really great for being able to really connect more deeply with the guys. If you can be a welcoming and honoring of that part of yourself. You know?
What part?
The part that has resisted, or that has been the same, or has not, the part that you're judging. It'll actually, because on some level they can feel it. The part of you that you're judging, they don't feel fully welcome. They feel the judgment. That's a big reason why that affects people's choice to come with you or not. I remember, you know, in my journey with O, for a long period of time, I really felt he saw me, really profoundly saw me, really had my best interest at heart. And then there was a point after enough conflict or whatever, and he started judging me. And I stopped listening to him as much. I refused his invitations, you know, because I didn't want to go be with someone I felt judged by. Like, I don't feel like he's got my best interest at heart if I'm feeling judged by him. You know, it's like yeah, he's got some great ideas. Like I want to pay attention to him, you know? But I don't know if he's going to fuck my whole life up because he's not caring about this whole mission I've been on, all my family back in the States. Like he's speaking as if these things don't matter, you know? And I'm like, you know, I'll keep my distance from that guy. Like I still want to listen to him. I want to read what he writes. I want to hang out with him a bit, but I'm going to keep my distance because I don't feel entirely safe or welcome. So, yeah, that's a great insight. That's a great insight.
I got my family watching. Bonjour Charles, comment tu vas? You got some people from the Arabic community?
Thailand.
Thailand.
Yes.
You can read this?
Oh yeah. It says, "Hello, handsome man."
Handsome man.
You want massage?
Left hook, right hook, knee, left knee. My Thai box training.
Sawadee krap.
Sawadee Kap.
There's actually no one watching, but they commented. They commented in the
Sawadee Kap.
Yes.
All right. I would love to do that. A
Self-honor window.
self-honor window.
Yes. Yes. You know, it's great that we had this conversation because, and I map it onto my situation with, I think it is a really big insight actually. It's, in a way, it's similar to, I told you about my other friend, a female friend. She's judging her husband. She'd like her husband to be different. And she wants him to go on a different path, right? But she's in judgment of him.
Yeah, it's like what we said before is if you feel judged by someone, you probably have judgment of them.
Yes.
And the way forward in that relationship is not by trying to change their judgment, but the judgment you hold of them.
Yes.
It's the same with you. If you want to transform, you gotta come to terms with the judgment you have of the parts you don't like, or
yes.
Or with the other person. So,
yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of times we try to motivate ourselves by judging ourselves. That's that internalized external authority. Mm-hmm. We judge the part of ourselves we don't like, trying to transform ourselves. But in a way, it can keep us the same because there is that other part of us that's feeling judged and it wants to hang on to what it's got.
It all of a sudden becomes very clear why we're not making backflips. It's just that. It's just you're judging it, or I'm judging it. Fuck. We are the prisoners. I am the prisoner of my own judgments. Not in the least the judgments of parts of myself. What a maze. What a maze to try to break free of.
Thank God there's tools that can make clear these invisible walls of judgment that keep us trapped and ways that bring them down. Speaking of the honor window work, if you're interested, seek it out.
Well, actually, we have a call on Sunday.
Yes.
And we have a group of guys who be present, but they first did already the first call 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
3 hours. I was half rolling my eyes. 3 hours. And if you're interested to do the work, you're invited Sunday. But contact me, and you will have to go through the call.
You have to do the first part. You have to do the first work.
Yes. So contact me or contact Michael, and I will give you the recordings. And then if you go through the work, do the first part, we'll invite you on Sunday.
Yes. And if you're listening to this at some point, well after like the end of May, then just seek us out, make a comment, search for the honor window online, and come and do the Jedi training to liberate yourself and your people.
See you tomorrow.